in this market. I am a leader of the people in this market. Please help us, because we are being killed by Shylocks. When we borrow 1,000 shillings in the morning, in the evening, you must return that 1,000 shillings with 200 shillings on top. That is 20,000, that is 20% per day. Assuming even you work on half that, that's 10% per day. If you calculate it per year, it is 3,600% per year. That is the kind of interest the people, these 10 million people, pay to access credit. William Ruto and Bishop Okinde here, we access credit at 14% per year. So just look at the difference. 14% per year, 3,600 per year. Just making sure that these 10 million Kenyans have access to credit, and don't even say cheap credit, at the same level as Kenya Airways, Safaricom, or the big corporates access credit. If we just make them access credit at 14%, like everybody else, we will increase their earnings from 300 shillings to 700 shillings per day, just by sorting out credit. And in 8 years, we will double the size of the economy of Kenya. Yeah? And maybe when I say this, it looks simplistic. I used to think it is simplistic also, until I became deputy president and I realized that actually government can make things happen. That's why I said government can make the impossible happen. Miracles take slightly longer. Do you understand what I'm saying? So bottom up is about sorting out the millions of our young people who are jobless, so that they can begin the journey to climb the economic ladder, have a job so that they can run their lives, run their families, and build our country. Getting the millions of people who are doing all these odd jobs and making sure that we have they have access to credit, they have access to a good place to do business. We organize them. Johnson Sakaja is here. Instead of him running around with hawkers in Nairobi, formalized. We have said, as a Kenya Kwanza administration, we have agreed with Johnson Sakaja here, who is our candidate for Nairobi, that with the few markets we have in Nairobi, we will build an extra 20 modern markets in the city of Nairobi alone, just as a way of getting the people who are hanging their wares all over the place into a formal place where they can do their business, and making sure that we get rid of contempt for the hassles of ordinary people. That's why I have said every hassle matters. And finally, just by way of responding to the bottom-up economic model, is to make sure that we not only promote, because we had a wonderful plan on agricultural transformation, to make sure that we increase the productivity of ordinary farmers. We have 12 million farming households, yeah, who are producing below what they should be producing. And all they need is access to fertilizer that is subsidized, access to good quality seed, A farmer who is producing 6-7 bags because they don't have the money to buy the right seed, they don't have the money to access fertilizer. If we made sure that they have access to fertilizer and access to quality seed, their 5 bags they are producing can be double. In just one season, you can double it. Let me give you another example, finally. We produce 5 billion liters of milk. 5 billion liters of milk. We are amongst the largest milk producers in the continent. If we are not number 1, we are number 2. That's Kenya, right? And we are doing, on average, maybe 3 liters per cow. 3 liters. And it's because we do not have the correct, we haven't thought about how to, about animal feed. We still import a lot of animal feed, raw materials, soya, canola, sunflower, simsim. We import all. I was having a discussion in Busia last week, and we were discussing simsim. Busia is actually the 4th poorest county in Kenya. I'm sorry, Bishop Okindo, I know that is your county. Neighboring county, sorry. Yeah? It's the 4th poorest county in Kenya. And yet, there exists huge opportunities in oil crops, starting with simsim, starting with soya, going to palm oil. You know, yet we are importing all this. And for your information, we are spending 190 billion Kenya shillings every year to import food items into Kenya, which we can grow. 190 billion Kenya shillings. Edible oil alone, 80 billion shillings of edible oil we are importing. And these are things we can grow. So, what am I saying? The people, the farmers who today are languishing in poverty, we can increase their incomes, actually double their incomes. Like the one of milk I told you, if we just get the correct animal feed by making sure that farmers grow sunflower, we grow soya, we make sure that we have enough raw material, we can actually, for every cow, forget about the cows that are producing 40 liters per day. Even if we just moved our average from 3 to 10, we would increase our milk production from 5 billion liters to 15 billion liters. Forget about 15 billion liters, 10 billion liters. Do you know what that will do? Milk will overtake all our horticulture and what as a foreign exchange earner. And that does not require 10 years. It requires 2 seasons, and we are there. So I am so clear in my mind as to how we can change this country in our lifetime. We don't have to wait for 20 years. We can change Kenya in 10, 15 years. And whoever was not in our country will not recognize it when they come back.
Now, all this that you've said is good and indeed can work, should work, must work. But when we are in a state of insecurity, then nothing gets realized. With every election cycle, unfortunately, insecurity seems to always crop up. We have ethnic mobilization. In recent times, we've had security lapses in Kerio Valley Triangle, Marsabit, Garissa, Laikipia, Lamu. We can only fear what might happen. That's a real fear. And it may even keep some away from turning up to vote, your voters and for others. So, what assurance are you giving the Kenyans that they should not incite against each other to be peaceful before, during, and after, practically speaking?
I think you've talked about, the issue you've raised has three facets from where I sit. We have insecurity because of criminals and crooks and terrorists and all these bad people, which we must firmly and decisively deal with as government. We had a program on making sure that we have police reservists in many of these areas. And in fact, we deployed extensively police reservists. In fact, some of the counties, like Turkana, I remember, even helped to pay stipend for some of these police reservists who are really helping with matters security. We must continue to invest in the software, in the human resource, and in the hardware to make sure that we secure ourselves from criminals. And we already have a reasonably big budget on matters to do with security. What we must do, however, is we must make sure that we get value for the resources we deploy in security. What will I do differently? I will make sure that buying guns is not a security issue. Why is buying a gun by the government? Why is it in mystery? Why is it in some dark room? Why? The guns are being carried all over in the streets by policemen. So what is the big deal? Today, they are classified as security purchases. So a gun that is supposed to be sold for 20,000 is bought at 60,000. Why? Oh, it's a security thing, so it cannot be done by open tender. It must be done in some dark room. It must be. I have been against those stories because these security, secret things, that is where corruption thrives. We must get, if we got value for the money we are putting in our security sector, we would get maybe twice or thrice the output we are currently getting. Right? Number two, we must get the IG. What I will do is to get the IG his own budget. The Constitution says the IG is an independent office. Today, the IG doesn't have a budget. He relies on the office of the president for a budget. You know? And so he has to speak nicely to some people at the office of the president. Why? The IG is an independent office. When I ask somebody, why are we bringing matters to do with the Inspector General of Police? Why doesn't he have his own accounting officer when the Constitution says they should have its own accounting officer? Somebody was telling me, oh, you can't give somebody guns and give them money. If they have guns, you must keep the money so that you keep, giving them enough for them not to cause trouble. First day, I will appoint an accounting officer for the Inspector General of Police and the police department and give them an independent budget and demand from them. Because if you are giving somebody his budget, you are unable to demand from them. Because they will say, but boss, we didn't get this money, we asked for this, we didn't get, we asked for this, we didn't get. So, make the Inspector General of Police truly independent, and then I will demand from them why this is not happening here, why this is not happening here, why this is not happening here. I have told you two things already on that. The other issue that is bringing about insecurity is, of course, poverty. You know, you have all these young people. They are loitering our streets. They are out of school. They have no jobs. They become pickpockets. Then they become gangs. Then they become terrorists. You know? So we have to deal with the matter of economic inclusivity, making sure that our young people have a job to do, they are meaningfully engaged, or they have credit to do business. And finally, is the third category of insecurity, the political gangs, you know, sponsored, you know, driven by politicians and politics. I am a strong believer that we need to institutionalize our politics around political parties. I am a very strong believer that the best way to move our politics away from personality cults and ethnicity is to build strong national parties. That is why I was very heartbroken when the party I spent so much time to build, called Jubilee, was destroyed. Yeah? By tribalists, people who don't believe in Kenya. But thank God, I am not complaining too much, we have put together another national political party called UDA. Today, in every poll, UDA is the most popular party in Kenya. And it is because we believe that politics should be played around institutions of governance. Political parties must form the basis for canvassing our politics, so that our politics is about issues. It's not about the person. It's not about personality cults. It's not about the tribe of the person leading the party. It's about the issues the party stands for. And that is why today, whether you like it or not, if you speak about UDA, people will think about bottom-up more than they will think about William Ruto.
Now, as we get towards the end, in all these we need to have, and you mentioned, I think, in terms of the software side of things, national values. When we say chapter 6, I'm sure Dr. Ginde, it will not be about chapter 6 in the Bible, of any book that you pick. When you say chapter 6 in the Constitution, championing it, to what extent would your administration champion chapter 6? Because other things will fall in place no matter how well-intentioned and implementation of the economic model and other things come in.
That's a very important component of the Kenya we want. From where I sit, I think religion and education must be centralized in making sure that we have a country that has a moral compass. I have been accused of engaging in building churches. I have built as many mosques as well. And it is because I believe the church and religion and the belief in God by the people of Kenya is central to our success. I am happy that the church and religious institutions are beginning to realize that they can no longer remain neutral. There is this thing the church keeps, oh, you know, we are neutral. we are neutral. But the Bible says you are either warm or you're cold. You can't be somewhere there. I don't know which part of the scripture is neutral. You know? Maybe I need to be schooled, you know? So I think the centrality of the believing God, the centrality of our religious institutions, the centrality of the church in making sure that we have a country that has morals. The influence of our religious institution in our education is very important. The church must take sides. I have always taken sides. I take sides on the side of God, always. And I am unapologetic. And I am unashamed. I believe in God. And I cannot go somewhere and then I say, oh, you know, I'm neutral. I'm not neutral. I am not neutral. I believe in God. The place of education, we have to continuously refine our education so that it speaks to the values of our society. The church, religious institutions, those who are Muslims and those who believe in God must have a stake in the Republic of Kenya. And I don't know whether there are many issues that the church want to raise with government. I know, for example, that the church have issues with the way taxation is fashioned in our country. Sometimes you're taxing the church for carrying out social activities, public good activities. There needs to be a discussion about that. There is the place of the church and owning property. What is the place of government in assisting the church to own public property that they can use for public good, to build a church, to build a rehab, to build a children's home, you know, and those kind of things. That's a discussion I am willing to have. But the church must step forward. You know, they cannot continue to be in a neutral place where they don't know whether they're going right or they're... Now, and I'm saying this because I'm a Christian, right, and I'm speaking my heart, you know. I know, for example, that we've had issues with the registration of churches in Kenya. There's a moratorium, and it needs to be discussed. What is the nature of this moratorium? It is for how many days? What are the reasons? The church again must step forward and have a conversation with government. But the church also has an opportunity to install a government. Yes.
Excellent.
They have an opportunity to install a government. Instead of waiting until others install the government for you, and then you go and start complaining to the government, why don't you install the government yourselves?
But that's clear. And I think
given to people who don't vote or who don't get involved in matters politics is to be ruled by fools. So if we continue to be bystanders, and let me say this, allow me to say this. The first time I thought of being a politician, and the first time I decided to show signs of wanting to be a politician, my very good friends who we were in our evangelistic team together. I remember one of them, he's a doctor today in Nakuru. He's called Dr. Ngetich. They wanted to lay hands on me. How can you be a politician? How can you be a politician? This is meant for people who don't know God. That's a while back. I know we have made a lot of progress to where we are today. But sometimes there are people who think that being in politics, they believe this narrative that politics is a dirty game. But the Bible says it's God who chooses leaders. It cannot be that God is involved in dirty stuff. I don't think so. So, just to speak the truth, the church needs to up her game.
One thing I can assure you, the church is not neutral on values, but neutral on the candidates. That without any fear of contradiction. Now, I'd like us to get into what I'd call a rapid fire session. We've received questions both online and from the audience here. Three, 4 questions, but brief, succinct. Of exclusion, pastoral communities, education-wise, your view?
The people from pastoral communities, I have called them myself, and they know it. I called all the MPs from the pastoral communities, and I told them, listen, you cannot continue to depend on teachers coming from the rest of the country. We are giving you opportunity to train teachers from the pastoral communities. I have paid for 100 teachers in Tana River, for example, to go to training myself at a personal level. And what we need to do, the big problem, for example, in northern Kenya, is that many teachers from in northern Kenya come from Nairobi, Nakuru, Siaya, and all manner of places. Very few teachers, very few people in northern Kenya go for training as teachers. And the question I ask them, why do you make the teaching of your children the business of other people? Because when one gunshot is fired, the gentleman from Siaya will go to Siaya. But if that person came from that village in Wargadud or someplace in Wajir, whether 10 or 20 or 50 gunshots are fired, they will stay at home. And when the gunshots are over, they will go back and teach the children. It is as simple as that. So we need to persuade more of the people from pastoral communities to get their children to go to train as teachers, number one. And then number two, we as government, we have to increase our teacher-student ratio in those areas by hiring more teachers. Related to the same, your position on free primary education. And is there anything such as free? Christ paid the price for us on the cross. It was not free. Salvation was free. It's not free, it's paid for by government. I think free is just because the parents are not paying. But of course somebody is paying. And we are all paying through our taxes. So I think free maybe is maybe the wrong, the wrong way to put it. But it's paid for by us, by the government of Kenya, using public taxes.
So your position on that?
My position is that it's the right thing to do. I mean, we must never disadvantage any child from, if there is one thing we must do, we must arm every child with good education. What we need to do is to truly make it free. I think at the moment, there are still levies here and there. For example, I have heard some of our governors, and even my good governor here, Sakaja, they have promised, as part of their manifesto, that they will make sure that his county government will make sure that they have lunch for every child going to school, so that we can retain more children in school. So lunch is an issue. Parents are being asked now to pay for lunch. It's a way of keeping more children in school. But maybe progressively, maybe that's a function county governments will take over, so that we can have more children in school. And for your information, there are more children out of school in Nairobi than in Turkana. That's how serious matters education are in the city of Nairobi. So we really have to think about it.
Next question here. What's your agenda on drug abuse and alcoholism eradication, and how will you deal with drug peddlers?
Drugs is a big issue. I don't know whether it is only with the young people, or it is even with everybody, including leaders. We have a very serious drug problem in our country. In fact, some two good bishops, they walked to my office about a year ago. Actually, it was Bishop Mark Kariuki and Bishop Masinde. And they told me, Mr. Deputy President, our children are looking at you leaders. Please, make sure you are giving a good example to our children. And the subject was about drugs, right? So it is a serious problem. And again, it goes back to the role of our religious institutions, the correct teaching standards in our schools, and of course, the example we set as leaders in the public space, and making sure that we are, because my daughter once came to me and asked me, is there anything wrong with taking wine? And for a minute, I didn't know what to say. I told her, yes, of course, there is everything wrong to taking wine. Oh, is that so? But I see very many people taking wine. You know, so we have a real issue as parents, you know. We have to take our responsibilities very seriously as parents. We have to take our place as leaders. The church needs to take its place. Our teaching institutions need to take their place. This requires an army to deal with, and it requires everybody to play their role. So I don't think it would be fair to apportion it and say it is this person who has failed or that person. We need a collective effort to be able to deal with the matter of drugs.
Wonderful, Bwana DP. We thank you for honoring our invitation. You didn't come alone. Yeah. You came with a couple of your colleagues and friends. We'd like to give an opportunity to just invite them, recognize them, but if you may just go to the podium and make your sales pitch in terms of, let's hear as you make your remarks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Edmond, for bearing with me. I know I speak a lot. And maybe just on the one matter that you said, maybe before I go there, of course, I cherish the opportunity that I have been given to speak to this audience and to speak to others who are listening to us on other platforms, and to say I'm very happy that the church, EAK, have provided this platform for many of us who are seeking opportunity to lead in various capacities, to be able to engage with you, to listen to some of the issues, and for you also to listen to us, so that you can make informed choices. Because the quality of the choice you make is dependent on the quality of the information you have. In our midst, I have friends who I came along with. I have Johnson Sakaja. Johnson Sakaja is not a new member here. I'm told that he was a member of the Sunday school here at some point, and he's running as governor of Nairobi, the city of Nairobi. I have Rigathi Gachagua. I think everybody knows him. He's currently the member of parliament for Madeira, and a great leader in our nation. Moses Kuria. Moses Kuria keeps reminding me that he stopped. Did you say that, Moses? Yes. He stopped consuming alcohol, so it's good. And then we have George Sunguya. He's a member of parliament for Kajiado West. And we had other people here, maybe they have stepped out. Yeah. We had Kipchumba Murkomen somewhere, and they've stepped out. I think those are among the people who came along with me. And maybe just finally, let me say three things. Number one, in this election, I have very worthy competitors. And I appreciate them. But in that context, I ask for your vote. And we have a plan. We have discussed this plan. And because we are serious about implementing that plan, we have gone to every county, sat down with the people in every county, and taken them through our plan and asked them for their input. And we intend to sign a charter with every county of our country on their priorities, on what they expect the government of Kenya to do the next 5 years. On matters to do with how we are going to get jobs, on matters to do with how we are going to put food on the table, on matters to do with